Spanish steel and aluminum are less competitive in the US market today. The 25% more that they now cost, because of the tariff, could make them lose market share in favor of the local product. A drop in sales to the American market is the first consequence of this measure. Being a common tariff to all countries that export to the United States, the relative price between competitors does not change. Still, it is estimated that out of the almost 1,100 millions of euros that are industry bills there, 10% could be lost. Companies that can take it on will have to reduce their commercial margins in the North American market. Since Trump announced these tariffs in February, shipments to the United States have been brought forward. There are several customers who have asked us to try to overcome the pitfall of tariffs, to advance the productive load to serve the orders before the entry into force. Tariffs on these sectors are not new, they were already applied in Trump's first term. And this Cantabrian foundry went from invoicing 7 million euros there to just over 1.65% that we have in the United States today. We can't put it there. We'll have to look for alternatives, mainly in Asia. They also see options to increase shipments for the Canadian oil industry and are already probing the Brazilian market, which will be opened with Mercosur. But our companies are not considering abandoning the US market pending a future tariff disarmament.
It's been very tough. And it's our turn too. You know, we get a turn at that also, but they have not been fair. They sue our companies and win massive amounts of money. Hopefully we can get a ceasefire from Russia.
With any luck, Russia will accept the ceasefire, and if it does, Donald Trump says, we will be 80% of ending this war. The President of the United States says that this bloodshed must end now, and that the ball is still in Russia's court. He thinks he will be able to talk to President Putin next week.
I've gotten some positive messages, but a positive message.
We will find out very soon. Good news comes to me, but it doesn't mean anything. It is something very serious that could lead to the Third World War, says the American president. He describes the talks held yesterday between his administration and the Ukrainian one as very good. The meeting in Jeddah is the first direct approach to peace.
Ukraine is prepared to stop all battlefield activity.
Ukraine is ready to end the war. This is said by Marco Rubio, the US Secretary of State, who was in charge of representing his country in yesterday's negotiations. Just as Trump points to Moscow,
Then we know we've made real progress and there's a real chance of peace.
if the Russian answer is yes, there will be a possibility of progress and peace. However, if they answer no, they will have made their intentions clear. On the ground, Russia has not stopped bombing in recent hours. There are several dead in Ukrainian localities after these latest attacks. Canon law does not contemplate a substitution in the Catholic Church's guide when a pope is hospitalized. From his hospital bed, we feel him close, present. This is the idea conveyed by the members of the Roman Curia.
The protocol with a sick dad is that everything operates normally.
Not even the Secretary of State, Cardinal Parolin, can replace the pontiff. In fact, Francisco has had to dispatch several times with him matters that require his signature, despite the ups and downs in his clinical picture.
Well, it is logical that this causes some activities and approvals and decisions to slow down a little. But everything is really operating. It is not a metaphor, and it is not. It's not fiction. Everything is operating with some normality.
The various dicasteries of the Holy See, which are like ministries, function autonomously, but there are matters reserved exclusively to the Pope, the appointment of a bishop, an apostolic nuncio, a canonization, and these days in the hospital. Even that has managed. Faced with the hypothesis that once discharged, he will have to slow down the pace of work. A pope who has set a record of public and private meetings, the Vatican will have to adapt.
And as long as there is clarity in the mind, there will continue to be decisions and government of this pope that I believe is willing to go to the end always.
And in that many agree. Resignation does not seem to be on the table at the moment. They are changing the state model and the constitution by the back door. You are the Trojan horse of separatism in the state apparatus. I remind you what the Popular Party did when its leader Jose Maria Aznar ruled. The civil guard was taken off the Catalan roads.
By a measly 7 votes. They have sold the security of our country and have cut the southern border of Europe. Limit, go out there and apologize to the state security forces and bodies. There is no transfer of border control or transfer of irregular migratory flows. The national police will continue to tell who enters and who leaves the Spanish borders, also in Catalonia, and stamping the passport.
Mazon continues with his agenda. Now to the judicial investigation, the criticism of the opposition, and the latest street demonstrations. The media pressure is added. One of the main conservative newspapers takes its editorial to the front page and calls for Mazon's resignation. With a message to Fayot, he says that keeping him is a serious mistake, cover reminiscent of this one from 3 years ago. In the midst of a leadership crisis of Casado, the pressure is on Genoa. He believes that Mazon is hampering the Popular Party. Despite this, he maintains his support for the president. Nothing has changed. While trying to divert the focus, what undermines the credibility of institutions is, for example, having a state attorney general indicted. The most explicit support comes to Amazon from within its government.
And resignation for what? If he is the only one who is showing up and they are working.
Ferris focuses on Fayot. Today, they are demanding that he tell what information Amazon gave him the afternoon of the Dana, and they are considering asking that they declare the cause. The Valencian socialists who opened the door to a motion of censure are now ruling it out, but announced that they will move. Mr. Mazon, the victims are asking us to take a step, the step that Mr. Fayot is taking, without revealing more at the moment. We told about it this afternoon. Compromise reproaches him again for not submitting the motion. I think he hasn't lived up to what we need, and he insists that they lend them the 5 votes they need to introduce her to them. The judge investigating the Dana has asked the 1-1-2, the recordings of some of the calls made by the relatives of the victims that afternoon. Well, they came back to Valencia today. As you can see, the Kings have first met with businessmen, freelancers, hoteliers and insurers, and then with social entities and angos. They want to know firsthand how the transfer recovery is going. The entrepreneurs have asked for a reduction in political tension and more collaboration between administrations to speed up aid. Arson, sabotage, disinformation, instrumentalized migration, cyber attacks, vandalism. These are some of the hybrid threats that have increased since the Russian invasion of Ukraine.
More than to destroy an enemy army to occupy a territory, which is what the military action intends. What they intend is to influence, especially to influence the population, so that they create confusion, chaos, discredit of the leaders. This climate of restlessness and confusion then favors other types of actions, including military ones.
We investigated about 80 incidents that occurred in the last year in Europe and were linked to Russia. In 10 of them, it has been proven that this is the case. In 17 others, the authorities have filed charges for Russian interference. 34 are still being investigated, and in 16, the initial attribution to Russia was denied.
These kind of attacks against us are on the rise, and not in those countries who are bordering Russia, but the whole of Europe.
One of the latest cases has been the interference during the German election campaign through disinformation. There is nothing that, at the moment, I altered the president's roadmap. From Finland, Sánchez insists on his plans, although he does not advance how he plans to carry them out.
We are ready to fulfill obligation, and of course, I will explain my citizens in Spain.
Here in Spain, Yolanda Díaz does not clarify her position either. Does it seem to you that there is an expense without bringing it to the president, who keeps silent? In the environment of the vice president, it is not necessary that this increase be voted on in Congress, contrary to what her partners at sea are asking for.
There are elements of sufficient importance that they cannot be passed as an administrative procedure by the Council of Ministers.
The rejection of the left bloc is clear, and you will continue to lick the boots of the United States of America. Esquerra, Vanega and Bildad are working on a common position ahead of tomorrow's meeting with Sánchez.
There is a majority against spending more and spending better. A lot is already being spent on defense.
The PP wants these differences to be evident in the chamber. Therefore, before the European Council next Thursday, the popular people will force a vote to see the support that the government has. Sánchez is going to present himself to the European Council with the position of the Socialist Party. It gives us an image of the weakness in which President Sánchez leaves Spain by staying in government. Critical of Moncloa for how he proposes tomorrow's meeting, it will be Fayot who starts the round of consultations.